Yo, peace, y'all. Barghani, Islam, Rahubat, Alafia, Gino Laconi Nani, Chief Noble, Bandele, in the building for a late night snack, if you will. Most people are probably in the bed, got the itis, from Misgivings holiday, which is what I want to talk about. I didn't want to ruin y'all's day, but I want to give you something to think about that you guys, I don't know, you know. This video really is just my thoughts on the day. And I wonder why my people, why my Moorish people, melanated people, in general, why they seem compelled to deal with European holidays so much, and why they fight it and give me a lot of reasons, excuses to do these things. Being that the number one reason is, family get together, and I understand that. I understand that today, everybody's off because it's a national holiday, and so we can take advantage of that day. But I'm not convinced that that's really what it's about. Because I feel like you don't have to do the traditional things that people do on Thanksgiving or Misgivings Day. We could get together and celebrate without having to create the same holidays. You know what I mean? So anyway, I'm not gonna get into all that right now. Y'all want to hear this? What I'm gonna do is I just want to give you some information on what I'm understanding about Misgivings Day. Okay, so I'm gonna give it to you from scholars and whatnot, and we're gonna read on some things. But before we get into that, I want you to check out my books on Amazon. All right, you can get these books on Amazon, and you can also get them on indigenousmoors.org. Right, so I got a lot of different books on this: Moors, treaties, the blueprint, the birth certificate explained. Okay, so you can check me out. All right, check it out, Bandele Elamine. My latest book is The Navigating Melanated Love and Relationships. So people, we're having a lot of dialogue about relationships, and just a lot of things that's going on with women and men, and how they're not able to get along, or the expectations of women and things of that nature. So this would be a good book to check out. All right, be a good book to check out. And also another book. This is not my book, but I want to show this book because we're going to discuss some of this book, and this is kind of goes with the topic. If you guys don't or haven't ever read Ishaka Musa Barashango, which I read probably 30 years ago or so, get this book. Put this in your collection. The African People and European Holidays, A Mental Genocide. And so that's kind of what we want to get into, is the mental genocide that we practice almost unknowingly. Like it's like, what's the problem type of thing with us, that we don't look at our practices, really not understanding the history of things, right? So that's what we kind of want to do. I feel like if we understand the history of things, that we would have a better way of dealing with these holidays. Like, from what I people were saying they was going to boycott the holidays. Melanated people was going to boycott the holidays because of what was going on with with the food stamps and whatever have you. But as soon as they got their food stamps, they went right back into that same mindset. You know, before the food stamps, the danger of not having them food stamps made you think, you know, like, what are we doing? Why are we, you know, we're not going to help the system anymore. But as soon as you got your food stamps back, you guys was ready to go back out here, you know, and buy all the food and do all the stuff that you normally do. And you guys do this, I mean, I feel like blindly, but, you know, like I said, we're going to get into this work tonight, late night. You know, I'm up and at it. You know, I ain't had no misgivings food, no turkey and none of that. We're going to look at what all this really means. Now, I got a video too called Moorish, which we're going to look at a glimpse of it, called Moorish Origins of Misgivings Day, okay? So, you know, this is kind of a build off of that video. So we're going to get into some things, right? So, what I want to do is the first thing we're just going to look at, I want to look at Thanksgiving or misgivings from our understanding. Most people understand, you know, the history of the pilgrims coming over, can't eat, get assistance from the Native Americans. They sit down and have a beautiful celebration of food and things of that nature. That's what we know. All right. But, you know, I want us to look at the perspective from the Native Americans' perspective. I want us to look at it from the melanated perspective of history, the Moorish perspective, just looking at and historical elements so that we can get a real understanding. Because I'm like, man, y'all can't be just doing stuff because it's something to do. You know what I mean? So what I'm going to do is play this first video, and then we can get into it. And if y'all up late, man, let's go. Like, I'm ready for the smoke, man. Like, I'm ready for the smoke. So let's get it. So let me see. Hold on. Let me put this to work. All right, let me put this to work. I'm messing up already. So we about to get this cracking. Let's get this cracking. Y'all bear with me. I'm about to unmute this. All right, and let's play this. Let's go.
Sleep at night in 1637. Mass Bay Colony, Plymouth Colony, Providence Plantation, Mystic Seaport, all English colonies banded together to burn women and children while they slept in a village at night. They barricaded the exit. They did not allow anyone to leave. They wanted them to burn. They were proud that they burned. This country was proud to write. We could smell their burning, rotting flesh for over a mile away. It's written, folks. Please read it on your own. I am not making this up. Stephen King can't make this up. He was so proud, the town of Norwich, Connecticut, had a statue honoring this man up until roughly a decade ago. John Mason, the man who murdered over 700 people. When anyone, the few people who were able to survive that Holocaust, they were rounded up. They were sold as slaves. Before they were sold, they were marched all the way from Connecticut to Mass Bay Colony, present-day Boston. They were placed on trial. They were declared to be sold as slaves. But before they sent them on that slave ship, they had to humiliate them some more. And they read a declaration that those people shall not ever, once again, even utter the word Pequot. They will no longer be able to call themselves a Pequot. I am proud to say I'm a Mashantucket Pequot. This is the history, folks. Because that particular day, that particular incident is when this country declared its second religious day of Thanksgiving.
All right. So, all right, let's look at that. Let me get that off the screen. All right, so you guys can look and tell Native American, and he's telling his truth about Misgivings Day. I mean, like, this is the thing. I understand why Europeans, you know, practice Misgivings Day. I get it. I really don't have a problem with them celebrating. It's their holiday based on their recollection of things, right? You know, the conqueror usually writes the rules. Conqueror usually writes the history. So, you know, Misgivings Day is really about the Europeans maintaining and getting their, getting land. It's really about them. So I can understand why Europeans might do that, right? All right, so, I just want you to think about that. According to the Native American, it's not a good day. It's not a good day, right? So check it out. You know what I'm saying? Now, my next video is going to be dealing with the book that I showed you guys earlier, right? Ishaka Musa Shango's book. And what I'm going to do is show you this brother, because I know y'all don't really want to hear me. You know what I mean? Y'all want to hear somebody else speak on it. So I'm going to let somebody else speak on the question he poses is, does European holidays like Thanksgiving lead to mental genocide? Which is reading from African People and European Holidays, a mental genocide. What is he saying? Mentally, it's like melanated people are out to lunch. They don't have no real focus on their own traditional holidays, or to even come up with their own holidays and replace those holidays. They don't have any. It's like they just doing whatever. So let me let the brother get into this real quick, and y'all tell me what y'all think.
All right. What's happening, good people? Coming to you live to have a discussion about this book here today. This book is called African People and European Holidays, a mental genocide, right? African People and European Holidays, a mental genocide. I am going to do a bit of reading from this particular book. I think that it is appropriate, being that we are on the cusp of Thanksgiving, right? And specifically, I'm going to read about the historical roots of Misgiving Day as the author positions it, right? So let's dive into a bit of this. African People and European Holidays, a mental genocide. Let me know in the comments if you've read this, what you think about what you're hearing. Let's dive into it a little bit. Okay, so Thanksgiving Day, literally a holiday celebrating the beginning of the almost total extermination of an entire race of people, commonly called the Indians, and enslavement, continued oppression and genocide of Africans by European settlers. In the succeeding pages of this study, I will observe that Thanksgiving Day is indeed a celebration of horrors. I think like this is like the truth. We don't like to look at the ugly truth. Oh, Freddie, we're just enjoying our holiday. Let us enjoy our holiday. You don't have to enjoy a holiday that are celebrating the destruction of people. Let me continue with the thoughts here. For over 100 years now, Black folks in the United States have joined with the descendants of the same European murderers who enslaved them and systematically all but destroyed the American Indian, in feasting and giving thanks to God for their opportunity to live in one of the most racist, imperialistic, and oppressive countries on the earth. For example, consider the number of Indians that survived the fierce onslaught of the European colonizers and observe their present plight. Consider the despicable conditions of large masses of Black people in America today. Even those of us who think we have, quote unquote, made it, have little or no control over the things which affect our lives. Then ask yourself, what possible sense does it make for you to celebrate a Euro-American holiday of Thanksgiving? Again, I am reading from African People and the European Holidays, a mental genocide. Let me know in the comments if you read this or what you think about what you're hearing from this particular read. Black people. Celebrating Thanksgiving is like the Americans celebrating the bombing of Pearl Harbor, or the so-called Jews celebrating the rise of the Third Reich, or the Palestinians celebrating the intrusion of the settler colony of Zionist Israel, or moreover, the millions of Zulu descendants who are being murdered by the thousands each day, celebrating the achievement of union, celebrating the establishment of the Union of South Africa, which.
All right, y'all. I meant to say, please like and subscribe. I had it on mute earlier. My fault. Please like and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Peace.
By the way, is synonymous with and has the same initials of the United States of America. We are sure that the absurdity of these brief illustrations strike home and should therefore caution Black people to examine all such American celebrations with a critical eye, applying logic and consider the alternatives. This chapter on the general historical roots of Thanksgiving Day will provide a vivid picture as to why we refer to it as a celebration of horror. Again, African people and European holidays, a mental genocide. This is what we are reading from today. Absolute horrors, right? Let me continue. The general historical background of Thanksgiving Day is rooted in the Protestant Reformation, which began in 1517 and includes the 30 Years' War that, according to Malana Douglas Nandy, destroyed over 1/3 of European population at the time. The 30 Years' War was set into motion when one group of Europeans calling themselves Protestants threw another group of Europeans known as Catholics out of the castle window in Prague in the year 1618. The devastating events of this war are just a few of the many on record illustrating a bloody and gory history of the Protestant Reformation, which is laced with human torture, grotesque mutilations, beheadings, hangings, and the burning of bones and books. More to come from these wonderful people that brought us these beautiful holidays that we celebrate unconsciously and never really critically think about. Let's dive a little bit further into the book. This fiendish spirit demonstrated in the Protestant Reformation was further taken to the height of its grotesque expression through the most heinous and ignominious atrocity ever committed by the one race against another, the European slave trade, or the European genocide, as I was taught to call it. Call it what it is. The horrifying bondage of the African people by the demon-like descendants of the pious pilgrims in the New World is a story so steeped in the magnitude of the evils of its evils, it defies accurate description. Upon settling on the shores of North America, the ultra superstitious Puritans of New England set themselves to witch hunting and the torture of the Indians, while the remainder of the so-called pilgrim fathers to the south in the thieving debauchery fell upon the indigenous inhabitants of that region. Then America's founding fathers engrossed themselves in the importing of kidnapped Africans and forced them to build the country for them. The beginnings of the Protestant Reformation, when viewed from the African historical perspective for what it really was, is seen as the struggle between the German Anglo and the Romano Latin as to who would hold the economic control and political power over all of Europe and eventually the world. Therefore, as an African people, we must understand that in the study of this conflict, we are preserving one brand of European nationalism, striving with another brand of European nationalism. During this period of European history, the church and the state were one as a ruling party, and even today, white ecclesiastical institutions mimicked by their Negro carbon copies, while sometimes denying it, work hand in hand with the white ruling class. Again, I'm reading from African People and European Holidays, a mental genocide. Should we be celebrating Thanksgiving not only this year, but every year? I'd love to hear your thoughts as I continue reading. And it's the day before Thanksgiving, so you know I'm going to leave you on a quick cliffhanger, and we're going to come back on Thanksgiving Day and finish the conversation, right? But we will begin our study of the origins of Thanksgiving at the point where England became embroiled in a bitter controversy with Rome which takes us back to the reign of the gluttonous and insatiable, frivolous Henry VIII. The Protestant Reformation, that is, those who protested against the Roman papacy and proclaimed themselves to be purifiers of the European religion, commonly misnomered Christianity, began to gain recognition by the state when Henry VIII fancied that it could be a vehicle to help his personal aims, the primary one being to divorce his present wife, Catherine of Aragon, and marry the young Anne Boleyn. Probably butchering that name. To fulfill this desire, it became necessary for Henry VIII to renounce the Roman papacy, the Pope of Rome, and declare himself sole protector and supreme head of the church, the clergy of England. This he did because the Pope had refused to grant him a divorce. Plot thickens. Henry then set up an Anglican church, the Church of England, and appointed Thomas Cranmer as Archbishop of Canterbury, the center of England's would-be religious worship. The new ecclesiastical head, in gratitude and under Henry's command, quickly annulled the marriage to Catherine, whereupon Henry VIII married Anne, who bore him the notorious Queen Elizabeth I. This somewhat dramatic move on the part of Henry VIII broke the powerful domination of that Rome had held over England for centuries. To further secure the new political and evangelical footing, Henry forbade the annual paying of tribute to the Pope, thus diverting the huge sum of money which had formerly been sent from England to Rome into the personal royal coffers. In addition, Henry disposed of all the covenants that England had and confiscated their lands, the monasteries and the covenants that in England, and confiscated their lands. This rule was well received by the general populace, since these so-called holy commuters were generally rewarded as the economic waste and hovels of gross immorality and debauchery. In 1574, the weary and obese Henry VIII, tormented by syphilis and a host of other debilitating diseases, departed the stage of European history and went the way of the flesh, leaving the throne to his weak and sickly son, Edward VI. All right, so interesting stuff as we're starting to build up on this story. We're getting to the point of where these psychopaths decide that they're going to hop the waters and come into America and to start spreading their cheer, right? Their joyous genocide that we're so thankful for today. We're going to pick up with this section, Bloody Mary, 1553 to 1558. After a brief reign of Edward VI, who through political intrigue was lethally poisoned at the age of 16, Mary Tudor, the daughter of Henry VIII, and his estranged wife Catherine, succeeded their half-brother on the throne of England. Being a devout Catholic, that is a pro-Roman, Mary set about revising reforms that were put into motion by the English Parliament and her father, Henry VIII, which had politically and economically separated the church from Rome. As a result, 300 Protestant leaders, including Archbishop Thomas Cranmer, were sentenced to death, thus earning for the hapless monarch the name Bloody Mary. This designation gave rise to the English terminology of bloody this and bloody that, and the popularized as the well-known vodka and tomato mixed drink called Bloody Mary, right? Interesting stuff. All right, so I think I'm going to stop there before we get into Queen Elizabeth I. We'll pick up there tomorrow. I'll pick up there and finish off this lead up to African people and European holidays, a mental genocide, but leading up to Thanksgiving, right? So Thanksgiving is tomorrow. That's when most.
All right. Well, we know today was Misgivings Day. I just wanted the brothers show from even like the African melanated perspective, like what we're really missing when we're looking at these holidays. You know, we romanticize the holiday. We act ignorant to what happened. How did these holidays even come to be? We really take none of that in consideration when we practice these things, right? So, like I said, y'all like and subscribe. I wanted to also show at least one. Well, I'm gonna show this, and then we can get into a little bit more of something else, right? But if you guys are familiar with Khalid Muhammad, right? If you guys are familiar with him, he's like the Malcolm X. You know, people get mad about that, but this is how I feel. He was the Malcolm X of the 90s, right? So I wanted his perspective on Misgivings Day. Let's see what Khalid got to say about it.
The slave and the slave master, of people that have been robbed completely of their culture, robbed completely of the power of their own being, robbed completely of a knowledge of self. Whose holidays do you celebrate, black man and black woman? Do you have your own holidays? And the answer is simply no, you do not. You just finished observing Thanksgiving. And certainly we are a spiritual people, and every day should be a day of thanksgiving to Almighty God. But the holiday Thanksgiving is not your day. You didn't come on the Mayflower, fool. You didn't land at Plymouth Rock. You got hit in the head with the damn rock. You didn't land at Plymouth Rock, but some of you think you're pilgrims. You eat more turkey and dressing and cranberry sauce than the white folks do. Say, what's going on? You just burping. Say, it's Thanksgiving, honey. Lord, child, it's Thanksgiving. You are celebrating the conquering of red brother and sister, the Indian people. You are celebrating the victory of the oppressor over the Indians. You are celebrating a racist mentality and a racist idea and mind that won sway, power, and domination over the Indian people. And you are celebrating with them. When you celebrate Thanksgiving, for the original owner of this nation is now selling moccasins and blankets on a reservation. And you eat turkey to that. You eat dressing to that. You stuff yourself with cranberry sauce to that. And pumpkin or pumpkin pie. Really pumpkin pie, because you really pumpkin out. You observe their holiday. You get ready for Christmas. Bless your silly heart.
Hey, I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying to tell y'all. You know what I mean? I'm trying to tell you. All right, let's stop that. I'm trying to tell you. What's happening is it's the mentality that we have that is allowing us to continue to do these things, right? So I'm just breaking it down to y'all. I'm not gonna get into it. We're gonna keep watching these videos. You know what I'm gonna do now is show you now that we moving along, because I come from a Moorish perspective as well, and I already did a video like this before. But what I want to do is show you certain things that we like with the turkey, right? One of the things that we do with the turkey, you know, the symbolism of these things really come from, I won't say racist overtones. And so my thing is this: if you celebrating something with somebody, right? Let's say you got a so-called white friend, and they celebrate something on a day, like let's say October 1st. They celebrate a day every year, and you go along with them, and they drinking and they celebrating, and you just go along with them. You don't even know why. And then you find out, you say, well, what really, you ask them, well, why you celebrate this day? And if the white boy tell you, oh, this is the day that we hung this black dude back 100 years ago, and we always drink and celebrate on that day. I mean, would you continue to celebrate it with him? Or would you say, well, I've been doing it with him for the past 10 years. I might as well continue, you know, celebrating with him, even though now you know what the actual celebration is about. This is how I feel about these holidays that we practice, that we are like just doing them, even though they're not, even when you learn the truth, you still continue to do it. And you say it's for the family, it's for your children, all these type of things. But it's really just a habit, something that you got going on, right? So what I want to do now is kind of move it to the symbolism, right? I'm a see, I'm gonna play my video real quick. So what I want to do is now this is the video that I did. Y'all can go look up this video and look at the whole video. Moorish origins of Thanksgiving. Did it a few years ago. So I'm gonna show you the Moorish part of it. Because we talk about Thanksgiving. The number one thing for Thanksgiving is the turkey, right? People say the turkey it symbolizes us. Okay. Well, I'm gonna show you where that come from. So when you eating that turkey, you eating yourself for real. So let's look at real quick what I said on this particular part, right? So okay. Right. But I'm trying to find, okay, let's go down here. This is what I'm looking at. Now, it says, but if the turkey is an American, as American as motherhood and apple pie, why, for God's sake's name, is the name of this bird the same name as the vast and important country in the Middle East? Okay. Not just any country, mind you. Turkey, the proud nation we know today, was the seat of the Ottoman Empire, the largest and most powerful political realm the Western world has known since the decline and fall of Rome. All right, I want to stop it there. Turkey is talking about the country Turkey. So when you're talking about eating turkey, they're saying right here that it comes from a Middle Eastern origin. Turkey. Okay, Turkey, like they said, was the seat of the Ottoman Empire. Do you guys know what the Ottoman Empire? It was, like he said, one of the largest political realms the Western world known. But it was an Islamic, meaning a Muslim empire. That's what you have to remember. Okay. All right, let me see what else I said. Ottoman military might from the 13th to the 20th century covered as much territory and peoples as ever were controlled by Rome across wide expanses of Asia Minor, Europe, Russia, and Northern Africa. Okay. And importantly, the Ottoman Empire was an expression of Islamic religion. Learning and culture in a golden age of wealth, knowledge, and power among the followers of Muhammad. Stop there for a minute. All right. So they are making a correlation to Turkey, the country representing Ottoman Empire, which is an Islamic empire. Okay. It does seem to make some correlation because, you know, as Raz Cass said about the Moors, which were Muslims, Moors, who were part of this whole process, is what he's talking about. So we kind of see some kind of Islamic tie to the Thanksgiving. All right, I'm going to stop it too, because I'm going to read this and then we can move on from there. But like the next section was how the American bird we know as turkey got the moniker turkey, right? And not the Aztec or Mexican term. Okay. Authentic early American names for American turkeys has much to do with the fact that the turkey was the center of the world at the time of European Christians. Okay. So what we're saying is that the term turkey is applied to this particular meal, right? And we have no idea. We had no connection. We don't think about that when we say turkey. We think about a bird. We don't think about a country, which symbolizes a country is symbolizing a people. Okay. A people. So so now I'm bringing that into into focus, right? So what I want to do is show this part. Okay, so I have when we talk about and you guys can look at that video that I just did to get more understanding about the Moors, right? But we're going to talk about the Moors a little bit on this, right? Because Moors play a part in this. We're talking about Moors, we're talking about Ottoman Empire, we're talking about Turkey, these things, right? So it's not just a coincidence that the Moors were basically taken out of the country of Spain in 1491 around November. All right, so let's look at this because we're talking about now this is before the so-called Indian or Native American and their whole storyline about Misgivings Day, right? This is before that. This is 1491. So I'm not going to go all the way into this, but we're going to start here. I just want to show you so you guys can have context. It's called Thanksgiving, right? By a couple of Moors, right? So what they're saying is this. So we talk about the Moors. The Moors, they arrived in Europe in 711 AD. It says life would never be the same again in Europe. The Moors were commissioned by the governor who sought revenge against the immoral and brutal King Roderick of Spain for sexually taking advantage of his daughter, who was under the care and the guardianship of King Roderick while training at the court. It says that the Moors were dignified, proud, and noble civilization known for their spectacular advances in science, medicine, and architecture, which included the invention of eyeglasses, the invention of science, right? So, if you don't know, but the Moors brought a lot, they re-brought, okay? Not they brought it, but they reintroduced a lot of things back into European culture that had been lost during the Dark Age, all right? So I'm not going to get too far into that part. Okay, what I want to do is get to this part. It says the standard of living far exceeded that of the Europeans. They said that who were jealous. Okay, so bringing all this information back into Europe, the Christians were jealous. It kind of went against Christianity because they looked at a lot of that stuff, science and stuff, as demonic. Okay, so it says that these Europeans who were jealous and envious of the Moors' accomplishments in Spain, it says that the Christian Spaniards fought hard to rid Europe of their beloved Muslim conquerors. There were eventually many bloody Muslim Christian battles, right? A good movie, which you should look at, which can show you that is the battles, is El Cid, okay, featuring Elizabeth Taylor. It says that the powerful Moors were able to hold off the Spaniards for nearly 800 years. So now this brings us up to what we talked about, 1491, right? So let's skip down a little bit in this. So it says right here that in the year 1491, the Moors surrendered the city of Granada. Now look, their last stronghold. And it's saying on November 25th, 1491. November 25th. So we're talking about the time that they use for Thanksgiving today. Okay. November 25th, 1491, the Moors signed the Act of Capitulation, after which Spain's King Ferdinand II and Queen Isabella, let me move it up, took possession of the city. Right? So this is what they're saying. So the Spanish Christians were thankful for the Moors. You hear that? Thankful for the Moors giving Thanksgiving for giving up Granada. They were thankful that the Moors gave up Granada. Okay. They were thankful that they had finally rid themselves of Islamic rule. Okay. So this was a merry and festive day in the eyes of Europeans, and would henceforth be a day of thanks. Okay, so that's what we're trying to get to you understand. Like, this stuff started before the Native Americans in America. It started with the Moors. Okay, because once they were able to defeat the Moors, that gave them a leeway to come to this country. Because if you look, like I said, I talked about this in the other video, but look, 1491, it said, right? Everybody know in 1492, Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Ain't that what they say? Right? So we got the Jewish Christopher Columbus. Yes, and that's right. He is Jewish, meaning that he had a darker skin color. I'm not going to get in an argument about was he black. I'm not saying he was black or that, but it has been said that Christopher Columbus was Moorish himself. But he was definitely Jewish. We can show that. I mean, I might not tonight, but you guys can look it up. But nonetheless, it's saying that the defeat of the Moors brought three options: replace the Islamic and Asiatic customs with European customs, be expelled from Spain, or face execution. So after the expulsion of the Moors, okay, this is where Ras Kass, if y'all know the rapper Ras Kass, he did a song called Nature of the Threats. And this is what he talks about in this song. So it says that Cardinal Ximenes, backed by Pope Alexander and of Rome and Queen Isabella, ordered the destruction of the beautiful and stunning Moorish libraries and mosques. Christians had a problem with knowledge. They looked at it as a opposition against Christianity and the Pope and all them things, right? So they always was destroying books. They destroyed the Library of Alexander, from what we know. But it says anyway, many Moors were driven into West Africa and were later captured and sold into America as slaves. Some of these slaves came on slave ships of Christopher Columbus. Look, a Spanish Jew, right, who was commissioned by Queen Isabella on a voyage to the New World. So many other Moors sought refuge in the country of Anatolia, which is Turkey, right? So now this goes to what we just spoke on about Turkey and Ottoman Empire. And that article that was written, that was like by a European right now. He made a connection that Turkey became the name of the bird that was eaten on Misgivings Day. And they're saying that a lot of the Moors, when they left, they went into North Africa, but some of them went into Anatolia, which is the Turks, which were, they say Turkish Moors, but we'll say Muslims. So you got these Muslims that were Moors running off and and then going into Turkey, which was Moors. I mean, not more, but Muslims, right? And it says, and the country would later be renamed Turkey by Europeans. Okay, so now let's go. Let's keep going with this. It says that after the expulsion of the Moors, Europeans began to annually celebrate November 25th. You see what I'm saying? There would be great feasts all over Spain and Europe. A turkey bird was not the main meat dish served, but a fat roasted pig with an apple in its mouth, representing or symbolizing rebirth or a new beginning. Okay, so check. So Europeans ate so much on that feast that virtually nobody could work the next day, which explains why in modern times many corporate jobs give their employees the day after Thanksgiving. So now, years later, Europeans began to take revenge on the Moors, now called Turks, because of the relations the Moors held with white Christian Spaniard women. These so-called black men or Moors were mockingly called turkeys. And it made me think, like, when you hear the word jive, you jive turkey, what does that really mean? Like back in the 70s, they would say, you jive turkey. And then it says, and were called, oh, shoot, hold on. Y'all messing up. Okay, it says, and were called by this European men because of their alleged wild and uncivilized nature. European Christians would now go on a turkey shoot or a turkey hunt. The hunting of the stern Kharijite Moor from Turkey, Anatolia, became a highly regarded by Europeans at that time. In the process of the turkey shoot, Europeans would engage in the wholesale slaughter of black or dark-skinned Turkish Moors. Innocent Moors would be hunted down cold-blooded by European Christians. Many others would be captured, tied by their wrists and ankles with rope, and roasted alive. Just like you roast a bird, the turkey bird, in the oven for Thanksgiving dinner. The Moors that were not roasted alive were laid on the ground, and a European male would take a knife and literally carve up the Turk. Okay, so the carving of the turkey. So, I mean, y'all can say whatever, right? But there is some kind of correlation to Turkey and the country Turkey. We already have made that distinction. So this is just going into more symbolism of what the turkey really meant. Well, we know that there was savagery that was done against melanated people from Africa and across the world. Enslavement by these Europeans. So we know that there was, a good chance that they did these things, because we know just from pictures that we look at now, when we see our brothers and sisters that have been hung and how they would castrate them and do all kinds of sick things to them in front of other, so-called white people, and make it a whole celebration. So if they were doing that all the way up in the 1900s, certainly we can understand what's going on here. Now, like I said, I mean, this is not, I ain't saying all Europeans are doing this, but what I'm saying is that there were some that had the power that was able to do these things. Okay? So let me get back in here and see what's cracking. See what's really cracking in here. Y'all with me? Like I said, please like, subscribe. Let's get it in. All right? So, with that being said, let's even look a little further, right? Because this is the other part. Like I said, I don't understand why. Like, I don't understand why melanated people are so compelled to follow in the same footsteps as the Europeans. Like I just don't understand it. Like, I get the day off. Why can't that day be used for more cultural events? Is it because you don't know anything about culture? You don't know anything but what he's given to you? These are just things that come to my mind. So let's look at this too, because what happens the day after Misgivings Day? All right, let's go on right into it. Because like right now, like basically when we look at Misgivings, it kind of starts the whole, what they call holiday season, right? Which for, America, it has a lot to do with capitalism, right? So they sell us these things, how much money is being made by grocery stores for this day. Y'all know this because y'all were supposed to boycott Misgivings Day. Y'all said, "Oh, we tired of the president. We tired of what he doing. We not going to participate." That's what y'all said. So let's see, because what happens the next day after Misgivings? It is Black Friday, right? So I had to tie Black Friday in because Black Friday and Misgivings, they go hand in hand, right? So what's up with Black Friday? People try to say this and that, right? Let's look at the term Black Friday. The term Black Friday in historical history. All right, let's look at it. Let's check it out. All right. Let me see if everything looking good. Let me see. Everything looking good. All right. All right. So let's get into this real quick. Saying the term Black Friday in financial history. The earliest recorded use of the term Black Friday dates back to September 24th, 1869, when a financial panic struck the United States. Two notorious speculators, okay, Jay Gord and James Fisk, attempted to corner the gold market, causing the stock market collapse and triggering widespread economic turmoil. This event was labeled Black Friday because of its devastating impact on businesses and the economy. Okay, so it's saying that while this historical event is unrelated to shopping, it highlights the term's association with hardship and crisis, a far cry from the celebratory consumerism of modern Black Friday. Okay, so let's continue with this. It's saying connection to slavery and exploitation. So how is Black Friday connected in any way to slavery and exploitation? It's one of the most troubling and most overlooked aspects of Black Friday origins lies in the potential connection to the institution of slavery. During the 19th century, during the 19th century, so in the 1800s, Fridays were commonly used as days for slave auctions, particularly after Thanksgiving. What? So Fridays are commonly used as a day for slave auctions. Slave traders would advertise and hold large auctions to sell enslaved individuals to plantation owners preparing for the upcoming agricultural season. These events were horrific spectacles with human beings being treated as what? Commodities. Scholars argue that the systematic exploitation during these auctions reflect a troubling parallel to the consumer frenzy and the dehumanization often associated with modern Black Friday sales. While not a direct precursor to today's Black Friday, the historical exploitation of labor and human dignity cast a shadow over the term's history. People. I'm just here, man. Like, I haven't practiced these things for many years. And I've even had family members upset with me, family members looking at me like I'm crazy, okay? Because I would not continue the blind traditions that have been given to us by the Europeans that have caused us the problems in the things that's happened to us in this country and around the world. You know, but it's just hard to really fathom why we do what we do. And like I said, if family's going to get together, I know family want to eat, but why must family come together and eat the same foods or foods similar to what the Europeans, particularly the turkey? Y'all can say, well, They don't fix what we fix at Misgivings Day, but there are similar things, and these things are sold. You go to their stores to buy it. Europeans eat turkey. Y'all eat turkey. Y'all are eating the symbolism, of what they doing. So it's like you're following a holiday that in all essence is really a genocidal holiday. Either Native Americans, it was the beginning of the Native Americans genocide, and it also was the beginning of the Moors, or what now is known so-called black people, or Muslims, or even Arabs. I don't like a lot of Muslims don't celebrate a Misgivings Day. If you look around, a lot of these stores that are open in the community, in the so-called black community, a lot of those stores are owned by foreigners, Muslims, and that. They don't celebrate that stuff, but we do. We spend so much money in the system. We spend so much money on Black Friday trying to get these deals and get a lot of things that we don't even need, but it's because it's on sale. We get it. So, I'm just saying to y'all, I'm going to go back to this book right here, man. If you haven't read this book right here, right? African people and European holiday. It's got, for real, let's go look. It's got a 1 and a part 2. All right. Part 2. I read these books a long time ago. I read these books over 30 years ago. They gave me a lot of insight. It showed me really why am I even doing these things. My thing is this: holidays are not bad if they're for the people. Like, people celebrate holidays because it's to power up their culture. All right. That's what holidays really do. Holidays are for powering up that particular society. Right. It's to power up and give some kind of pride to a particular people or culture of people, and they celebrate it. Out of respect for the society I live in, I mean, I'm not protesting against the holiday like it shouldn't be practiced. What I'm saying is that it shouldn't be necessarily practiced by certain people, that it really has nothing to do, and actually was something that was detrimental to your ancestors. Because many of us look at ourselves as indigenous to America. So if you're indigenous to America, why are you celebrating this? Right? As an indigenous person, whether you are dark skinned, or you more of a lighter hue, why would you celebrate this, right? If you're saying you're native to this land, and even the dark skinned people who we consider ourselves African centered, well, Ishaka Musa Bear Shango, as being African centered as you can be, showing why are we celebrating these things. What is it doing to our minds? What has it done to our minds? Has it somehow made us docile? I don't know. I think so. I really think that's what's happened to us. The brainwashing has, caused us to be docile and actually to, believe in the system, if you will, to go along with the system. So, I'm here to share some knowledge. I hope y'all enjoyed this. A couple people that came on here. Appreciate y'all. That's really all I got for y'all today. I appreciate y'all taking the time. It's late. It is late. I'm up. I'm up and at it, but I'm gonna end it for the night. So I appreciate y'all. Like I said, please like this video, share this video. Hopefully next year, things can be different. All right. So with that being said, I'm out. Tuta Nana, Salama, peace.